Hey there again. So I have to make a confession. Last time I streamed, I completely forgot to actually record the output of the stream. So unless you watched the last stream, you'll have missed a bunch of stuff. So if you only caught it on YouTube, then the last state you'll have seen the level that I'm drawing in will have been this. So for those of you who are new, I'm just going to go over roughly what it is that I'm doing. There's a game, it's called Eight Dragons. It's a side-scrolling walk-along beat-em up. You go through a number of levels, and the particular level sequence that I'm addressing at the moment is a level sequence that begins here at the approach to this office here. The office is the Bow Tie Corporation. The name followed the logo, and the logo followed my pen. I mean, well, my mouse pointer. It just organically grew that way. But basically, what we've got is we've got some office buildings. You go into this office. You come into this lobby. There'll be a lift that I haven't drawn the interior of yet. There'll be a level in the lift. And once you come out of the lift, this is the dude that's going to be the boss, and this is the boss room, which is his office. So far I've drawn some walls, the floor, back wall. We've cut some windows out. We've shoved some stuff behind that in the windows from the docks level, and I built a door, and that's pretty much the last thing that you'll have seen. In the video where I drew the door, I made some suggestions about what I might do here. I'll come back to this whole midline thing. Here's the midline. The player characters can't go past the midline in the upward direction. And in order to give them the visual impression that that's the case, we need to sort of litter this area with some stuff that makes the player character, or the player of the player character, not try to move up there. This door was in part of that whole exercise, and I suggested that what I might do is I might put a fire extinguisher in here to hold the door open, which extends out this line a bit here, and I did in fact go ahead and do that. So I can turn that on, and you can see how that turned out. If you caught the last live stream, you'll have seen me draw it, but that's pretty much what that fire extinguisher looks like. And I also suggested that I put a filing cabinet in here, and I did in fact go ahead and do that. That's the shadows for it, and there is the filing cabinet. And that's about as far as I got. Oh no, I am lying. I did in fact begin putting a plant in. As you can see again, just to enforce this space so that people don't attempt to walk up there. Now, I'm not entirely pleased with this plant, but it's not finished. The plant pot needs some work, and I need to get some leaves on this plant to really fill it out. I'm not entirely certain, again, that I'm pleased with its location as well. I think it might be better served over here, but I can't be certain, so I'm going to have a think about that. And while I'm thinking about that, in this stream, I think what I'm going to do is address some of the lighting and make stuff a little prettier. And I'm going to start with this filing cabinet, because what I noticed while I was looking at this, if I just get rid of this midline again, is I noticed that here there's some scumbling, some darkness, some random pixels to give you the impression that there's some texture, some physicality to the metalwork of this filing cabinet. But what occurred to me is that, of course, it's a metal filing cabinet, and you're likely to see that there'll be some kind of lighting going on that mirrors the way that the wall is here. So I thought I'd go ahead and start doing something along that lines. So if I find the layer for the filing cabinet, here it is, I can add possibly another layer rather than cutting straight into it. You might think that I work with a lot of layers, and I really do, but it's so that, if I've got something that I'm pleased with, and the thing that I'm going to do to adjust it doesn't require that it's altered substantively, and I want to add some lighting or some shadowing or something like that to it, then what I'll do is I'll create a new layer and work on it that way. That way, if I become displeased with that, I can always go back to the previous state and try again with another layer. So this layer is filing cabinet lighting, or lights, or something. Mr. G out. It's in the wrong place. Cool. Filing cabinet lights. Right. Let's add that on. That's not right. Lights. Yeah, that is right. Okay. I can spell honestly. Right. So we've got a new layer, and what I'm going to do is using the polygon select tool. It's one of my favorite tools. I'm going to select an area that I'm going to lighten up. And that's just going to be this whole area here, really. There we go. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to light it up. I think that it should fade towards this edge, and possibly a bit towards this edge, but mainly towards this edge. So I'm actually going to use a gradient, I think. And the gradient's going to go white to a grey. Yeah, white to a grey. But they're going to be really low opacity, both of them. And then I'm going to get the gradient fill. Here it is, and just try and drop in a gradient. That might be too low opacity, actually. Let's get this up a bit. Okay, so the white's opacity is there. Let's try that. Okay, actually, yeah, wrong way round, and I did it in the wrong place. So let's. No. So now we've got something that looks like the walls reflected in the filing cabinet. Now that's too reflective. That's far too reflective. So we do need to bring the opacity down. But you can see what I'm going for there. That definitely looks like that there's a shiny surface and that there's some reflection going on, and that the carpet is intrinsic to that. You know, you can see a reflected carpet, which is in fact just the scumbling on the thing from before, and this lighting. So what I'll do is I'll drop the opacity of this. You know, it's going to be barely noticeable, but it's going to be just enough to give you an impression of it being there. I think that's probably cool. Yeah, I do. I think that gives us enough sort of metallicness, metallicity, I don't know. Whatever it is, it makes it look metallic, makes it look reflective. So the other thing I thought I'd do is I'd address some of the lighting on the floor. These windows are definitely going to be light sources, and I haven't really addressed that. So with the floor layer, again, I've got my polygon select. Now I think I'll do one and mirror it to the other. So it's going to be sort of fake perspective going on here, and I'm just kind of doing it by eye. There should be like a vanishing point somewhere way off there. In fact, vanishing point 45 degrees is probably about here-ish. So I'm going to pretend that is going to end up there, and too many clicks. So one click. No, what's going on here? Oh yeah. So every now and again I'll use a different graphics tool, and I forget how the individual tools for certain packages work. There we go. Right. So I figure that that's probably about right for the perspective there. Now, I'm not going to make the whole thing light, but now that I've got this gradient going on, let's make a new new layer. Floor lights. Okay. Now, unfortunately, I made that selection before I made a new layer, and I don't know if the selection's in fact. Oh no, that's good. It does work. Okay. Okay. Now, I think that's possibly too blatant, and I also think the edges are too stark, possibly because the carpet is very evidently sort of a heavy shag pile. So what I'll do is I'll take my jumble tool and just jumble the edges a bit. Yeah. And what I might also do is, because the sky out there is purple and there's obviously some sort of sunsetty oranges going on there as well, I might colorize that slightly. Let's get this layer, we've got it, and let's do some adjustments with the color. So I'll turn the saturation up. Because it was white, it'll have 0, and then we can just mess around with the hue and turn the lightness down. Oh, we don't want to do that. Oh, it's still white, isn't it? Even with saturation up. Well, I don't know how he's going. Wow, that's impactful, isn't it? How am I going to colorize that? Hue, saturation, lines. Well, let's have a. Let's colorize it. Maybe there's a colorize. Is there a colorize? Brightness, contrast, hue, saturation. No. FX. No. Adjustments. Invert. I might just have to do the cancel. I just have to do the whole thing again, but with an actual coloured brush, because I can't make that white another colour. Maybe I'll turn the lightness down. Let's try this again. Hue, saturation, brightness. So we've got the lightness, turn it down, saturation up. No, it will not give me a saturation that's not. Yeah, it has no colour value, so it can't saturate it. Okay, let's do that again then. Right, we've still got our selected area. I think I'll go with that yellow that I was talking about. Kind of orangey yellow, really. More sunsetty. There we go. Let's try that. Yep, right tool. Okay. Obviously, it's too much. We'll play around with the saturation there and the. Do you know what? It might not be too much. No, it is. It's too much. Okay. Well, we'll play with the opacity there. Let's do that. Make it less opaque. Maybe it needs to be brighter. Okay. Ah, there we go. There we go. So brighter, but then possibly less opaque again. It was definitely too dark before. Yeah. Okay, about there. So what I'll do is I'll cut that and flip it. So I'll grab that. It's not all of it. Okay. And flip that horizontally. Use it over here. And then what I get to do is to cut some shadows out of it based on the things that are in the room. So there's going to be shadowing cut out probably for the desk. Probably in what kind of direction? Well, the light's coming. Cut it straight out. Actually, the desk is just gonna, but not all the way. Let's go that far. Out there, out there. And the same here. Back up to the desk, and we can just delete that. So that's a shadow cast by the desk. Probably want to make that a little less. So now we've got a shadow cast by the desk. The same for the filing cabinet. Probably want to cut out something along these lines. Yeah. Now, actually, let's do that again because something wasn't quite right there. There's a computer monitor on the desk. It's gonna have an effect, isn't it? So we're gonna have some stuff there, and also we're gonna have to do some stuff with the plant. But I should probably finish the plant before I cut out the shadow for it. But yeah, that gives us a sense of some stuff there. That's good. Okay, and I want to get that filing cabinet, didn't I? Yeah. So probably about that much. Just a bit. Okay, there we go. Right, so, and of course the door would have obstructed it, but there's no light coming there. That's pretty good, I think. I may need to extend the shadow under the desk. Nah, we're good. Are we? Let's try lightening that, the opacity of that again. Actually, it's a bit too stark, maybe a bit too obvious. It's all about subtlety. But not too much subtlety. Okay, I'm going to leave it like that. It might grow on me. It's a little jarring at the moment. It's a little uncomfortable having this in the middle of the room. Actually, no, that does work. And I think once the plant's in there, it'll become obvious what's going on. Light from the windows. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Okay, shall I work on that plant then? I think I probably should. What do I want to do with this plant pot? Alright, so I'm on the plant layer. A, is that the right place for it? Let's have a move around. It could be better over there, but then we've got a glaring gap over here, and I don't think just a waste paper basket is really going to cut it. Yeah, so I've explained the need for having things along that line, and I'm just trying to figure out what it is that I ought to put there. As I said in the former videos, I never really start out with a real plan of what it is that I intend to do. I have a vague idea of what I need to do, and the brief for this really was that it needed to be an office, it needed to be in keeping with the rest of the building, the graphical style needed to be similar to the graphical style of other levels, the resolution of course is a given, and it needed to restrict the play area, and that was my sort of brief I gave to myself. What exactly I'm going to do here to prevent people from thinking they can walk up there, I'm not entirely certain. I like this plant idea. I don't think it should be on this side of the room. It doesn't sit well. Unless we had two, one either side. Could definitely do that. Repetition, I'd have to make them a bit different. Possibly the same pot, different plants. That very well might work. And then a waste paper basket, and then I think nobody's thinking they can move up there. Alright, let me work on this plant then. Okay. Plant 1 leaves. Now, my biggest, I wouldn't say fear, the biggest problem I generally have when I'm drawing is organics. I'm not remarkably good at doing organic things. Some people are great at that. It's not really my strong suit. Strong geometric shapes, you know, buildings, windows, vehicles, yeah, they're quite easy. But the organics, they kind of get me. So we'll see how this comes out. I did some plants in this office. I think those leaves are probably okay. So I will attempt to replicate that kind of thing. I don't think that there's any scope really for stealing the leaves wholesale from the other graphic. So let's see what I come up with. Let's pick a green. We can always adjust the color later, but we'll try and get some shapes sort of put in here. Right, so okay, might want to there we go. I don't know why that wasn't working. Okay. Right, so a bit of droop here on this leaf, I think. Not too droopy, but droopier. Is this green? Is this green? It is. How have we got? What am I under? Oh. Oh, how foolish. Okay, I'd meant to add another layer, but I haven't, and I'll just have to live with that, I suppose. Okay, but I'm definitely under something, because I've got, if you can see, there's different lighting going on. These aren't all the same color pixel. I don't know what's happened there, or how it's happened. That's very strange. Oh, I suspect I know what's happened. When I had not quite zero opacity on the right-hand click brush, I think that added to it. So that's not a good leaf shape. Okay, I told you this organics thing. It's a problem. Okay, I think that's a bit better, but I might have to move the. Yeah, okay, that's a good shape. Let's get some more going. I think a lot of it's probably going to be reshaping the branches that were on here. Oops. Okay. And that's probably good enough. We'll add some shading to it. And a big one up here. And another big one. Not that big. Another big one up here. No, that's way too big still. Or is it? I mean, it could be. It could be. Right. And then what I'm going to do, I think, is I'm going to have one that we can't see. I'll do one here. I'll do the right shadowing and everything there now. I think that will work. I think it gives us the impression that there's a front-facing leaf, and that's a good thing. Right, filling and shading. Filling and shading. Now, I don't know what exactly this is going to look like, so I'm just going to keep filling and shading and removing and adding until, not like that, until it looks exactly how I'm intending for it to look, which is something that I don't yet understand or know. So my intention is unknown to me, but I'm sure I'll know it when I see it. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some darkness on this brush, probably a dark green rather than just straight up grey or black, and I'm going to get some lightness on this brush. Wrong way. Very, 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 very pale, and then I can sort of add and subtract darkness and lightness as is my want, using the left and right mouse button. And I'll get some impression of the shape of the thing, hopefully. Hopefully I'll create something that has a shape. It's starting to look a bit more leafy. So yeah, if you are also a pixel artist or you enjoy pixeling, like I do, yeah, sort of in the comments to the video, whether here on Twitch or whether on YouTube after I've uploaded it, just, you know, comment, link me to it, and I'll see what kind of stuff you're getting up to. Also, let me know if you think I'm doing a good job. Or if you've got any hints or tips or pointers, you know, gratefully received. If you think that there's something I'm doing wrong or a technique that you think I could benefit from, go ahead and let me know. I would enjoy to see that. Always learning is the key. I have been doing computer artwork, well, since the mid to late 80s, really. The first computer graphics I drew on graph paper, and typed them in on a ZX Spectrum, and then not so long later than that, possibly early to mid 90s, that's when I started working with Nathan, the other member of Extend Mode, the guy that does most of the developing. When I started working with Nathan, Deluxe Paint existed, but neither of us had Amigas, and neither of us really knew what software was out there, but we were learning C and C++, and both of us had spent significant time with Spectrum Basic and some C64 Basic, and Nathan had gotten to the point where he was learning Z80 assembler. I didn't ever really reach that point, which is probably why I still do most of the graphics and Nathan does most of the code. But yeah, graphics packages weren't really available to us in the same way that today you can just pop onto the internet and get one. So Nathan devised a format called a bitmap. I'm sure other people devised formats called bitmaps, but this one was well, it was effectively a comma delimited. Well, each line was semicolon delimited, and each number was comma delimited. And I would type in a number from 000 to 255, having established a palette beforehand, and I would give Nathan great big text documents which contained the graphics, and those were our bitmaps. And having picked a palette beforehand, I could draw some really quite large graphics. We put together a game called Rebel Wars, which was a space shooter. This was, I think, in 1995, maybe 1996. I think it was probably 95 though. And yeah, I drew whole planets in Notepad. That was before I was lucky enough to have a copy of Deluxe Paint 4 for DOS, which I think to this day is possibly still my favourite tool for drawing pixel art. But EA didn't ever develop it past the DOS version. There was never a Windows version. So I'm very grateful to have Sprite. Really, this is a fantastic tool. It's quite similar to Deluxe Paint as it was. If you've not used Deluxe Paint, I would recommend just to see how it was. You can probably get a copy somewhere. I imagine it's abandoned by EA, and just spin it up in DOSBox. You can probably find it on archive.org, and they'll probably run that in a DOSBox for you. In the way that they do emulate things these days on archive.org, and you can probably have a go at putting together some graphics in Deluxe Paint, and you'll see what it was like drawing in the 90s. I very much enjoyed it. Okay, how are we doing with those leaves? What do we think? Let me just zoom out here. Okay. Well, I quite like them. I don't think they necessarily work in the style, and probably have to do some work to make them. See, there's quite a lot more variation here, isn't there? What was I thinking when I did those? Let's move him over here. Okay, I was thinking that actually the contrast needs to be greater, and I haven't done that here, but perhaps I can just increase how much light there is and make the dark a bit darker. So, right, so let's make the bottom one the dark one actually. Right, okay. And make it a dark green like this, and there we go. And we'll make the top one light but quite a bit lighter and maybe a bit greener. Okay, let's add some contrast here. So I can lighten this area up, and then darken. So contrast, I think, is the key to. Added shadow I didn't intend to there. Okay. I don't know, have I made that worse or better? I think what I might have to do is to green up the midline there of that thing. Let's kind of make that more green. Darker. So some darkness and some light. And okay, yeah, so it's now looking more shiny, which rubber plants, I guess this is probably something akin to a rubber plant. They tend to have shinier leaves. I'm not happy about that though. Let's not happy about some of this. It's the wrong shape. I'll come back to that one. Let's get this one sorted. Right. Again, if any of you had the pleasure of using something like Deluxe Paint and you want to have a, drop something in the comments, I'm always happy to discuss it. It was one of my favorite tools. But if you had another favorite tool that's no longer available and you kind of wish was around so that you can do your pixel work with it, I'd be interested to hear what your favorite tool was. Okay, yeah, okay. I'm not displeased with that. It's more shiny, more contrasty, but that's what we had on the other level, and we are trying to keep, some kind of consistency of graphical style, and that, I think, that works for me. I'm just going to make the rest of them like that now. Okay, so okay, let's get this going. Okay, very variegated. I don't think I intended it to be that variegated, but I'm not displeased with that. Leaves can be quite variegated, and it certainly matches this one. Yeah, okay, I'm on board with that now. I think that's where we're going. That's the new direction. Yeah, very variegated. I don't even know what kind of plant that makes it. I mean, I've seen leaves like it, but I can't remember exactly where. Probably the last time I visited IKEA and looked at the plants there. Although mostly they only have cactuses. I don't know if that's true. It's been a while since I went. Okay, I think I'm happy enough with that plant. Let's get some shadow going on there. Now, what's the best way? I'm just going to have to wing it. Okay, right, so let's get back down to the floor lights layer, and we're going to have to cut out the shadow. Now, obviously, there's a circle for that, and then I guess the rest is going to be, I'll just use this. Okay, so we've got the top of the thing, and you know, we've got the bottom of the thing, which obviously the shadow needs to be attached to the thing it's a shadow of, otherwise that ain't gonna work. Now we've got one that sprouts off this way, and one that sprouts off this way, and then we've got some big leafy kind of masses, and because we're getting close to where the shadow fades to nothing, we can get away with it not being too accurate. And then we've got another one here, we can shadow that out. Wow, there we go. Okay, and another one coming this way. And then we've got the shadow of the plant, or thereabouts. Okay, now, did we fancy having two plants? Let's get the plant layer. Let's just copy one over to the other side and see how we go. Like, I mean, obviously it's just a copy of it, but the idea of, no, I think that's forced symmetry is not a good thing. Let's not have another plant. Right then. So what have we done? We've done some floor lighting. To sort of give the floor a sense of having been lit by the windows. It gives those windows more presence as well in the room. Makes you feel like some light coming from there. And I've added some leaves to that plant. So not a great deal today. Not yet. Oh, do you know what we need? The blinds need some kind of a presence here. I had forgotten about those. So I can actually just see that? Because obviously the blinds, these blinds that we drew earlier, would leave a mark on the shadow or on the light being shone on the floor there. Okay, so we've got that going on. I think what I might do is I'll put in a waste paper. Do you know what I'm going to do actually? I remember saying in a previous video that I thought that this dude was the kind of dude that would have a self-portrait on the wall. So I'm actually just going to put a self-portrait of this dude on the wall, possibly with a gold frame. So let's do that. And let's walls, we'll put it above walls, new layer, we'll call it portrait. Because he's that kind of dude. I mean, he runs this company. Why wouldn't he do that? All right. So I can just use the graphic that I have of him, shrink it down a bit, and then put a frame around it and give it a background. So if I go like this, or like this, yeah, and I think a nice portrait color background. Now let's go for a regal purpley blue. Yeah, okay. So then we need to build a frame for it. And we'll get a brown color. That will end up being gold. Okay. Now I've done something quite stupid there, in that frame can never be centered here, so I'm just going to do that. There we go, that's better. We'll drop some shadow on it later. In fact, do you know what, I'll just do it now, it's easier. Same shadow that's under there. We'll just shape the entire thing in here. There we go. Possibly more shadow actually. Okay, alright, let's get that, get it a little darker. Let's get that. Make it halfway. And less again. And less again. Okay, yeah. Alright, and let's make the frame gold-ish. So we'll get a nice yellowy colour, very gold yellow. We'll get less opacity. And we use this. It's too much. Less opacity. No, too much. Less opacity. Yeah, so we'll gradually get it in like this, see? Okay. The trick is all in the light. Okay. Is that looking golder? I guess it is. Drop a small shadow inside the frame. And because it's framed, you might find that there's some glare on it like it's glass. So let's do what we do with other glass entities, windows and such. Let's get some sheen and then remove some. That's pretty much the way we do it. So we add some sheen, and then we cut some out. That, get out, and okay, so that's now a picture. Just because this is representative and not realistic, and I very well know very well that actually you aren't likely to see that kind of thing going on. I think that gives you something more of a sense that it's hanging. On the wall. Yeah, hanging from a nail. He's got a portrait on the wall. What a guy. Okay. Waste paper basket then. Probably need something, maybe a certificate down here would be good, like a diploma. I'll get to that in a bit. The diploma certificate thing, I'll get to that in a bit. Waste paper basket. Probably around the same place as the plant. There we go. Let's get a new layer. I'll just call it bin. We call them bins. Waste paper basket's far too long. Right then, now, many a waste paper basket has been drawn in the past, it being a fairly standard icon for your recycle bin or what have you on the operating system of choice. Let's see now. 2 circles and things, joining them up, and then shine and stuff, right? Okay. Oh, I think I may already have done that wrong. How many waste paper baskets have been this low resolution? I'm thinking possibly Mac OS 7. The bin on Windows back then wasn't the kind of crisscrossy basket that you'd find in an office. It was an odd thing, really. Like a rectangular bin, maybe the kind that you'd find in a classroom. Okay, how am I going to make this work? Darkness. In moderation. Right. But it also needs to not blend in with the carpet. That could be quite tricky. Okay. Do you know what? Maybe just a round bin. It would be a lot easier. Just a round, straight round bin. Well, I'm already on this now. Maybe I should commit to it. Commit to this as a shape. At least try and finish what I started, rather than thinking, okay, that particular kind of bin is going to be too hard to draw. Let's give up. I mean, spikes are valid, right? Where you think, okay, is this the right way to do it? Like when I was thinking about the blinds on the window up here, I was thinking, will I do horizontal or vertical blinds? And I did do a quick spike for the vertical blinds, realised that they weren't going to work, so I quit that. Okay, this isn't looking too bad. But yeah, failing fast is no problem. But giving up when something has the potential to work possibly is. Right, it kind of looks like a bin. Should we put some paper in it? Paper, off-white. Crumpled up bits of stuff in the bin. And then some shadow to give it this shape of crumply stuff in the bin. It is quite an ill-defined bin. It doesn't really have much of a... Where was the top? I don't know. I don't know now. I actually don't know. Was it there? It was there. Okay. Let's make it better defined so we know where the boundaries of the bin are. And we'll cut some shadow for it as well. But dark out some stuff inside the bin. Can I really call that a bin? Yeah, I think I can. Let's get rid of some of that floor shadow then. Or floor lights even. We'll get rid of some of the light, leaving the shadow behind. Probably that's good enough. Yeah, I think that works. Now, are people still going to try and walk up here? And what can I do to prevent them from doing that? Now, the leaves come out quite far here. We've got, do you know what, I'll move the bin across a bit, I think. Let's give that back. Where's the bin? Can't show it right in the middle, but there. It's not sticking out too far from the desk. Actually, it is sticking out too far from the desk. You wouldn't have it that far from the desk. There's okay. And then I can cut out from the floor once again. There we go. I don't think people are going to think they can walk up there. I mean, let's turn on. They might think they can. They might. They might. How am I going to stop them? Now, we've got a plant, we've got a bin, we've got a fire extinguisher, we've got a filing cabinet that's pretty much in the way. But if they walk there, they're gonna hit something. But what are they gonna hit? What can I put there that will stop them? Do you know what? I'm going to have a think about that. I'm going to call it a night. I'm going to say that's enough for this video. So yeah, please subscribe if you want to, and comment, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.